Hello, my name's Emma Huber. I work with my husband Alexander on PRISMS, which is the resource we're going to discuss today. So this presentation introduces an open scholarship platform which seeks to address some of the challenges which come with conducting digital book history. Digital book history can be thought of both as using digital tools to study book history and also the study of the history of digitised digital and born digital books. And of course the two are not mutually exclusive. One challenge in the study of book history is the relationship between print books and manuscripts, facsimiles of those traditional items, and born digital books. There is a good deal of overlap, but also huge differences, particularly in the materiality of the items and the way they can be interacted with and distributed. How can they be studied as part of the continuum that they undoubtedly are without diluting these differences? The PRISMS Open Scholarship platform uses semantic web technologies to connect these disparate book formats by using a formal ontology to describe the items themselves and the relationships between them in a consistent and standardized vocabulary. Ontologies encourage us to be as precise and explicit as possible, thus reducing the reliance on implicit knowledge, which opens digital book history up to become a collaborative endeavour, one in which book historians, curators and librarians, and of course digital humanists, can partake. It is this ontology which allows both digital and traditional books to be held together in the same knowledge graph and treated as part of the same continuum without losing any of their complexity or the precision of their description. Using semantic web technologies to describe this continuum allows the relationships between items to be visualized as a network graph. I've added 3 texts from the full text database that underpins PRISMS to my workbench. I can then switch to the graph view to examine the relationships between them. Let's have a closer look. So a work realizes an expression which embodies both a digital manifestation and a physical manifestation. The digital manifestation is composed of 2 transcriptions and a facsimile, whereas the physical manifestation is manifested in a publication as well as the copy used for transcription. All these relationships are precisely defined using an ontology. Zooming out, it is easy to see the relationships between the items. All 3 are written in German. The 2 Passionals Christi were published in the same year. 2 of the texts came from the Deutsches Textarchiv. While the graph in this visualization just shows the texts in the workbench, the graph underpinning PRISMS contains all the descriptions of all the tens of thousands of texts in PRISMS, all precisely defined and connected with each other. A further advantage of putting this information in a graph is that this knowledge graph can be queried, bringing new insights. For example, if, and this is not standard practice so it is a big if, but if all provenance information was precisely captured within the knowledge graph, it would be possible to query the graph to retrieve all items acquired by a particular person or in a particular place or region within a given time frame. It would be possible to reconstitute libraries at a particular point in time. These kinds of queries are not possible with a standard search engine, but use of the semantic web makes them at least thinkable. Having a common vocabulary for description is essential if all these items are to be treated as part of the same continuum. A prerequisite for this is, of course, agreement on the requirements for the descriptions of these objects within the domains they originate from, be it medieval, early modern, or modern objects. PRISMS uses the CDOC-CRM family of ontologies, which is an event-based ontology that is widely used in the humanities. Event-based means that the descriptions are based on events in the history of the item, written by, published by, acquired by, and so on. This doesn't preclude the description of the materiality of the item, but it will be supplied in the context of the event of the item's construction, or made with. It's possible to provide an almost infinite granularity in the description. For example, if it were possible to determine, you could have the material as parchment, the animal type as pig, the age of the animal, and even the farm where the animal was raised, even the DNA sequence if you really wanted to. In a semantic web environment, you could then query the graph and retrieve all items whether parchment originates in a particular region or from a particular animal. You can add your own items and connections to PRISMS, either by dragging and dropping or by double-clicking anywhere in the graph. There are various templates and shortcuts for commonly used connections, and you can also browse the whole taxonomy. In this example, I've added the first and second quartos of Hamlet from the Shakespeare Quartos Archive project. Moving to the graph view, we can retrieve items that have the same publication year, the same author. There are 2 from 1603, 2 from 1604, and just 1 from 1605 as a second quarto variant. And we can see what other shared attributes there are as well, the author being the key one, which is shared by all of them. We can also retrieve facsimile editions of the texts and even related scholarship, such as a performance, as these relationships with the original are accurately represented in the graph. Another concern is how to publish and share annotations on whole texts and parts of texts, or even to create and share new transcriptions and images of texts themselves. Scholars routinely make photographs and transcriptions of texts in the course of their research, and making these transcriptions and images more widely available and associated with the original item itself could make a big contribution to collaborative scholarship. It isn't easy to find a suitable platform to publish a transcription that has been made in the course of research, other than repositories, particularly in a way that associates it with the original and makes it discoverable, reusable, and exploits any encoding. In fact, we're unaware of any such platform. The act of creating a digital representation of an item can form an intrinsic part of studying book history. For example, Professor Henrika Lehnemann makes use of digitization in teaching book history. The act of creating a digital edition forces students to pay close attention to both the text and the materiality. A way of publishing these texts is essential to this form of teaching. See Professor Lehnemann's book history blog for more information about how the students approach their learning on history of the book in a digital context. PRISMS offers this publishing capability. PRISMS will host images and transcriptions, but also it's possible to associate research data such as images and transcriptions that are already in an institutional repository, say, with the item record in PRISMS, meaning that they're discoverable and visible and searchable within PRISMS, alongside the metadata and any facsimile images held elsewhere for that particular item. It's not just transcriptions and images that can be contributed to PRISMS. It's also possible to link related content, such as teaching materials, blog posts, scholarly publications, podcasts, and videos. Annotations can be made about whole texts or about aspects of texts. They too are part of the knowledge graph. They can be made on transcriptions and on facsimile images. Connections between the content of texts can also be made using the ontology and are also part of the knowledge graph. All contributions such as this are private by default. However, we strongly encourage users to make their contributions public due to the benefit to the community as a whole by sharing knowledge in a way that can be exploited computationally. As well as studying digital books and facsimiles and fitting them into the tradition of studying book history, book historians are concerned with using digital methods in their research. Of course, organizing key information in a knowledge graph is a digital method in itself. However, PRISMS offers a number of tools within the platform itself. As well as the annotation capabilities and the ability to add to the knowledge graph, which has already been demonstrated, there is the option to create new information within PRISMS by creating and publishing a notebook which may concern research notes, bibliographies, or other useful contextual materials. The popular statistical tool Voyant Tools is also integrated in PRISMS. Plans for future tools include a TEI-aware XML editor, allowing encoded texts to be created and published directly within PRISMS, and a Sparkle endpoint to allow the sorts of complex queries that were mentioned earlier. We were asked to put PRISMS in context by discussing similar platforms. However, PRISMS is truly cutting edge, as there are no other platforms that we are aware of that offer this level of integration and tools for open scholarship. Other platforms that have similar aims include ResearchSpace and Sphera. However, they do not include integration with a full-text database, as PRISMS does. A platform that associates facsimile images with metadata and transcriptions is earlyprint.org, and that includes many tools as well. A particular feature of PRISMS is conceiving the continuum of book history as encompassing more than the primary materials and extending to contexts and secondary materials and scholarship, and including the ability to model scholarly argumentation as part of the ontology. We aren't aware of another platform that combines all these features, but we hope that this presentation has helped to demonstrate the power and potential of such a platform, and we hope that you will be inspired to try it out. Thank you.